let's say you do want to open up a gym. That's why I said 2 scenarios. I would go small. I've done a lot of research on this. Most profitable gyms in a coaching space, 2,000 to 3,000 square feet, right? I would never. So if I didn't buy the building, I would not be in this big of a space. I wouldn't. The overhead is crazy. Like if I share some shit of what certain things cost, it'll blow your mind, right? Like it'll blow your mind. But of course, but as an investment, I think it was one of the best moves. And I have 7 tenants. So I have a real estate business that 7 tenants pay rent to, including my own gym. So there's really 2 separate businesses, right? So that's important. I would go 2,000 to 3,000 square feet, and I would focus on mostly semi-private and small group personal training. So for us, semi-private is like 4 people with completely customized programs. Small group is about 15, 16. If you have a smaller space, maybe it'd be like 12 to 14 people. General program that has a very, very good system of regressions, progression, lateralization, like it's dialed in. So again, it can serve a larger community. I would focus on those 2, and I'd have some really high-end one-on-one. Like if you're doing one-on-one, dude, it's like you're getting your blood work done. You got your DEXA, you got like your nutrition dialed in, like maybe some even meal delivery service that you have plugged in, but you have very few clients. That's the way that I would go today. And I think it's what I recommend to most people that are in fitness, because I think growing out of places is a lot smarter than growing into places. I see this a lot. Yeah, man, we spent $400,000. We have the best fucking equipment. We got Prime this, Jim Lecco, bada, you know, and I'm like, ooh, dope. What's your all in? And it's like, it's a lot, right? And it's like, so people are just going to come because it's a dope gym. I'm like, that's not going to happen, because a lot of people now have dope gyms, right? And you can't differentiate yourself necessarily just off of equipment. Like I'll never be able to outspend an Equinox or whoever else, right? Like, so go smaller. You build, you know, the 3 C's that I think are the most important when it comes to gym or coaching is number 1, coaching. Number 2, customer experience. Number 3, culture. That's the 3 C's, right? You do those things exceptionally well, man, you will do fucking really well, right? And you have to understand, if you go into a gym, if you're a business owner, you got to understand sales, and marketing, and systems. Like you have to. There's just no, you know, those days are gone when you're like, well, man, but like the product and service is amazing. Yes, that's the buy-in, right? That's the buy-in. But if you want to build a long-term business, you can't not know business. It's just, you know, and I see that mistake a lot where it's like, man, Luke, I'm great at what I do. That's all that's needed. Unfortunately not. Like you do have to know that stuff, right? So that's where I would start today. And here's the thing that most people will be surprised at. Like, what would be my number 1 strategy? Dude, this is what I'm so glad that I did a long time ago. I was doing speaking, but in person. So I was doing events at my own gym. Nobody put me on stage. I just did shit at my own place. Nutrition seminar, mobility seminar, how to lift seminar. I did it in 2014. I went 22 weeks straight when I did a lunch and learn, right? And it was basically, you know, 5 people at a business, 12, 41. And then it was like, oh, Boeing engineers want to bring you in. Cool, 80, awesome. And then there's a real estate company, 7. I didn't give a fuck. Like I was just anywhere. I'm just speaking and becoming what Dean Jackson calls like 3 mile famous, right? Because nobody else was like doing that, because of course public speaking is you know, people are afraid of it. And I was like, I'm going to lean into this thing. And at the end of the presentation, most will be nutrition, because when you're going to businesses, like you have to anticipate that most people aren't training. So if you're over there talking about like, hey, here's the R7 model, and we're going to, you know, you're losing people. But if it's like, hey, here's how to, you know, improve your nutrition in a simple way, it's going to give you more energy, lose weight, this, that, and the other, everybody in the room is pretty much on board with that, right? And at the end, I say, hey, listen, guys, like I got, you know, 8 spots to sit down with you, create a nutrition blueprint, help you with your fitness, with your nutrition. And here's a piece of paper, write down your name and number, and I'll reach out to you, right? And what would happen is like, 1, I'd get leads then and there. But what will also happen is like 3 months later, you know, Jenny, when she actually needs some help, she's finally ready. She hit me up because I was the person helping, being the expert, speaking in front of them. And because of social media and because of like, which I love, I think that it's very powerful, but people have like really stopped doing that. And it's, you know, for brick and mortar in-person business, I think it's the cheat code right now. is like being able to go speak in front of people. I have this thing called a 6x6 strategy. I teach coaches. I'm like, hey, talk to 6 people per day, 6 days a week, right? 36 conversations per week, 144 a month. If you, and by the way, like people are like, what do you mean? I go to Boom Boom, a coffee shop, and you see a person like, oh, dude, dope shoes. You a sneakerhead? I'm a sneakerhead, man. Like, yeah, I got these, but start a conversation. Hey, do you live in the area? Yeah, actually, I work here. Like, I'm a remote worker. What do you do? Oh, cool. Like, do you train? Where do you train? Start having this conversation. And you don't force it, but if they're like, oh, yeah, I got a membership to LA Fitness, but I don't really go. Like, why don't you go? Like, well, I don't like that atmosphere, but I am trying to get in shape. Oh, man, like, I actually own the gym down the street. Oh, wow, you do? You just have a fucking human conversation at a certain point in time. And you know what? Let's do this. I'll pay for 3 of your sessions. How about that? What's your number? By the way, this is a little trick. If you have a conversation with somebody in mid-conversation, you just go like, actually, you know what? What's your number? It's 100% conversion rate. 100%.
I don't want to know why you know that. I feel like this is like Luka's relationship game mentorship that he's coming out with. Look, guys, no one's getting dates here. Middle of the conversation, just boom.
I'm speaking about generating leads here, guys. Damn it.
Sure. It's all the same at the end of the day.
Listen, what's so crazy though, when people grasp this and go like, you know what? I'll fucking do that. Next 30 days, they're like, dude, I got more leads than if I'm running Facebook ads, if I'm doing this, I'm doing that, right? So this in-person, like in a community, like these strategies are so powerful. Like we're right now running a campaign with these postcards with QR codes that a friend of mine that runs a marketing company is like, dude, we're crushing with this in the martial arts space, and it's working way better than, like, for instance, Facebook ads, right? And again, that 3 Mile Famous, I actually make a distinction. Like, you're a brick and mortar in-person coach, gym owner, or the online brand. Like, I'm like, you could crush it here and never be known online, right? And have the best career, make a ton of money, and help a fuck ton of people. You could, legitimately, right? And the thing is, I definitely have a goal of the brand part and growing it, because I really obviously want to educate and do online programs and whatnot. But I think that a lot of people are looking at these brand strategies for like social media, for like national brand, and they're missing the boat on like the local 3 Mile Famous brick and mortar, how to grow your business, right? And so I can speak to it because I do it. You know what I mean? Because like I only speak about the shit that I do. I don't want to be like, well, theoretically, you could do this. And I really think it's a huge opportunity, because you said if you started over, I would make a crazy focus on that 3 Mile Famous strategies that I just mentioned, and then slowly build the brand online, right? Give it like, be patient, give it time, focus on the quality, do work you're proud of, but not like, oh my God, in the next 90 days, I got to get fucking XYZ coaching clients so I can, be on a beach writing programs and shit, right? Like, which is not true. So yeah, that's a probably longer answer to the question, but some context.